So, welcome to chapter 11. This is going to be a comparatively grammar light chapter, like a little a lull of peace before we get to the past tense forms, which are going to dominate the chapters to come. The next 3 chapters are then going to be dedicated to past tense forms. So today we are going to learn systematically something of which we have already heard, which we have already seen. That is the so-called desiderative mood. So the desiderative mood, this is an own grammatical mood to express desires. You do not have a verb to want in Mari. Instead, you have the desiderative case, which you conjugate verbs in this mood to express who wants to do something. Once we look at the formation and the such, we can also, I'll have a few comments on what one does when one wants to express wanting in some other context, like if you want some nominal object, like I want a beer or something like that, or if you want to express that you want somebody else to do something, I want you to, I don't want you to sleep all day or something like that. Yeah, so we'll get to that. So the formation of the desiderative is nice and simple and also very uralic. So the marker of the desiderative is, so we take the verbal stem, and if necessary, with all the simplifications and modifications that we've already met, and we attach this ending ne to it. And we have cognate forms of this throughout the language family. The Hungarian conditional is cognate with it. The Finnish potential is close to it. So we have ne as some non-indicative marker throughout the language family, and in Mari the usage is then to express wanting to do something. And this is now an active, like let's say, active, intentional, volitional. How should I say it? A wanting in which you have some agency, in contrast to the shogаш construction where Anush didn't want to eat because of the illness, but where it wasn't really up to Anush. The desire was just a circumstance. She was a victim of circumstance here, but this is now something where you can express what you actively want to do. So then after the ne, you add, and this is important and a bit tricky, you add the possessive suffixes. In the first and second person, this is completely, you wouldn't know it. It looks the same, but in the third person, singular and plural, it's the ending of the possessive suffix and not the usual verbal, not verbal endings that we have had elsewhere. And let's try this in practice. Let's see if everybody can manage to create one form. So if we'll start with the first conjugation. If we have ludash, to read, then Valentina, what would the verbal stem be?
Lud.
And how would you? Ludnem, that is exactly correct.
Mm-hmm.
Ludnem, right. And let's go through then. Kelvin?
Ludnet.
Ludnet, very good. And now Sandra?
Ludneje.
Ludneje, exactly right. So this is where you have to be careful. That's a J. Until now, we've only seen J as a person marker in the third person as a possessive suffix, but here we have it too.
One brief question.
Yeah.
Is the vowel of the suffix is not reduced ever?
This ne is not reduced because it is never in final position. There is always another syllable following it. So it's like here in Ludneje, this a, the final a of the possessive suffix, that is reduced, but the desiderative mark itself, ne, is always stressed actually. Yeah. And also about this vowel here, if you say possessive suffix third person singular, you might wonder, well, is there some vowel harmony then? Well, yes, but actually no, because ne has an a in it as a stressed vowel, so it will always be determining the vowel harmony, and it's always going to be an a. Yeah, this is there's if any of you ever have the pleasure of studying Hilmar, you have a lot of stuff there where you have in theory vowel harmony, but then some suffix in there that's already predetermining what the vowel harmony is. Okay, then Luan, first plural.
Ludnena.
Correct. Reka, second plural.
Ludneta.
Yep. And Sonia, third plural.
Ludnest.
Lutnesht. Correct. So what I said about possessive suffixes, you can see it is just in the third person that you have to be careful. First, second person, these are basically the endings we would expect at this point. Okay, and let's also try kochgash. Okay, this is if we have exactly 6 people doing exercises, we'll always have Valentina getting the first one and getting the tricky one. So let's in exercise to come, I'll shuffle it up a bit, but I think one more time we can do it like this. Okay, Valentino, how would you say I want to eat?
Kochnem.
Kochnem, right. Then Kelvin?
Kochnet.
Sandra?
Kochneje.
Yep. Luan?
Kochnena.
Yep. Reka?
Kochneda.
Yep. Sonja?
Kochnesh.
Kochnet. So, yeah, and here, second conjugation, I'll illustrate. We don't really have to practice this now because it is fairly trivial and we will have exercises for this. But here, if we have like, if we have ilash, we have then the verbal stem ile, and the e becomes reduced before suffixes comes, the suffixes are followed. So we have ilanem, ilanet, ilaneje, ilanena, ilaneda, ilanesht. I lied when I said that the ne is always stressed, because here in the first and second plural, the suffix that follows it is always stressed, but it is never good. Yes, and we have kayash. We'd have then the verbal stem kaye, which gets reduced to kaye, and then it is kayenem, kayenet, kayeneje, kayenena, kayeneda. Okay, these are the positive forms. Let's have a quick look at the negative forms, and they're also I'm hoping I'm not exaggerating the simplicity of Mari, but I find them very transparent. So in negation, the negation verb has the exact same structure, that we have a stem, which in this case is reduced to Like in the indicative, we added as o in op, etc. Here it is reduced to followed by the desiderative marker, ne, followed again by the possessive suffix. And that form of negation verb is followed by the co-negative form, which is exactly the same as it is in the indicative and the imperative. There are no special, no shenanigans you have to learn here. So, yeah, let's this time start with Kelvin. How do you say, I don't want to read?
A name lud.
Benem lud, that is correct. Sandra, how would you say you don't want to eat?
Inet koch.
Inet koch. Okay, maybe let's skip the next one because not wanting to live is getting a bit darker than I wanted to be. Luan, this isn't tricky. She, he, they don't want to go.
Unesh. Kai.
Yeah. So this is where you have to be careful here. It's the short form by the negation verb. You do actually also find uneje, but usually it's unesh. Uneje, you especially with the vowel at the end, you especially find it if it's like in without the co-negative form, like she, he, they don't want to. Then it would just be uneje in theory. Okay, Reka, we don't want to read.
Lud.
Yep. Then Sonia, you plural don't want to eat.
Uneda koch.
Yep. And Valentina, they don't want to go.
Inesht kai.
Dinesh Kai, very right. One moment. Kelvin asks, do we ever see one plural and two plural forms getting contracted? You mean to like, how would you expect a contracted form to look?
Well, something like a na or nda, perhaps.
I have never encountered this really. I mean no, I've never seen it here. There is like one thing that a marginally tricky aspect which we have not, which we're not going to see yet for a while, is So I've mentioned that there are imperative forms in the third person, singular and plural. And there, the forms of the negation verb are inge, like inge kai is she, he, they shouldn't go, and inisht kai is they should not go. And so this inisht and inisht are kind of close to one another. And thus they're for the distinctive function between the two. Like my feeling is that the desiderative marker is not really subject to much reduction to avoid that it becomes too similar to these imperative forms. Yeah, and in 2 weeks we're going to see the forms of the negation verb in the past tense. There you actually have some variation that is very visible in the sources, but we'll get back to that. Okay, so as regards formation, this is all that there is that I have to say, and we're going to see its usage in practice, both in the text and in the exercise. I did want to touch upon some points that those of you that are on the Discord server already know about this, as Luan was asking about this a few weeks ago. So what does one do if you want to express, like, I want a pie, I want a piece of cake, I want a cat, or something like that? Because we don't have a verb to want that we could have with an accusative object. And so I actually checked, like, I checked a parallel, sort of a homemade parallel text to see what is done. And this homemade parallel text is, for those of you that know the children's novel Pollyanna. It's sort of a classic of American literature. It's about a little girl who refuses to see anything negative in the world. It's like, well, no, whatever happens in the world, Pollyanna finds some way to interpret this as actually, this is a good thing that just happened. It's sort of like a bit of a literary archetype and a bit of an obnoxious one. But in any case, I figured that Pollyanna exists in a Mari translation, obviously over Russian as an intermediary, but still. And I thought, okay, a children's book, this is a good place to look at how wanting is expressed, because I'm sure there are things where she talks about what she wants. And indeed it is so. She's talking about wanting a doll and whatnot. And what in this form, what is always done there is that it's the verb now, like to take, to buy, but also to get, to receive, with the desiderative. I want to get a doll. And that's how you then say, I want a doll. In some contexts, it would also be it would be conceivable that the imperative third person forms of to be would be used. There should be X, Y, Z, or whatnot. Yeah, that's as regards that. Another point that I was years ago wondering about it before my boss at the time, Yelena Skripnik, pointed something out to me, which was a very valuable insight that I got, is, so what do you do if you want to express that you want somebody else to do something? I want you to sleep less. I want you to pet my cat or whatnot. How does one do those things? And she just looked at me and said, imperative. That's like this whole talking around your, like the barnyard way of, I want you to get the car. Just use the imperative, get the car. You don't, and find some other way to soften it with politeness or whatnot. So yeah, so that's how Maris manage to go through life without having a direct way of saying, I want you to buy me a book or something like that.
Jeremy, sorry for interrupting you when talking about politeness. Actually, is there such a word in Mari as please?
Well, if you look it up, what you'll find is пожалуйста, which is the Russian word for please. So then you think, okay, did they not have any politeness strategies before that? Well, what Maris would more use is, we'll get to this, there are these like weakening enclitics that you can attach to imperative forms to turn a command into a polite request. Like tol means come, but then there's like a suffix, enclitic ya, and if you say like tol ya, it's like, oh please come or so. And this would be the more traditional way of expressing politeness in Mari. You also, in theory, you can also use like poroli, which is like be good or so, but my feeling is that this is also kind of a fairly modern phenomenon, and like mostly born from people's desire to have some kind of more Mari variant of saying pожалуйста, when the truth is that this is mostly done with clitics and such in traditionally. Okay. Any other questions about the desiderative? Okay, we'll see it in action soon enough. And this was the big grammar point for the chapter. Everything else that's coming is fairly minor then. Okay, point adjectives and nominal suffixes. This is a bit difficult if you're coming from English, but I think all of us know languages that can do this too, that you can use adjectives as nouns fairly freely. I mean, in English, it's possible in some contexts. We talk about the reds, the greens, the whites. If I'm talking like, especially in the context of a Russian civil war, I'd be talking about the reds and the whites and such. But in Mari, you can do this very productively with any adjective, as would be the case in like German. And I feel confident to say that like in Czech, it's probably also pretty easy to do it. Yeah, so it's not shocking for most of us that Mari can do this. So just then to surmise what we have, if you say like kingdom now buy bread, and then I say which kind of bread, and I ask like, I could in theory say shem kingdom ale osh kingdom nalash kulesh. Must I buy the black bread or the white bread? But if I'm dropping the noun and just want to say black dark bread, the dark one or the white one or the light one, then I just use the adjective as if it were a noun. This is the one context in which we use adjectives as nouns. In the other, this is something you encounter this especially in poetical texts. This is not a very common thing, but it's something worth having seen. If I say like I'm building a house, that would be like my pörtem istem. But if I say my pörtem izim istem, I'm building a house, a little one. So I have like an adjective that I add to this like as an afterthought, and it's in apposition. So it's not like in the usual ordering that I'd have the adjective before the noun modifies, but it comes afterwards, sort of like as a post afterthought. Then I also, I do parallel inflection with the noun that precedes it. So it's like here, izim is in the accusative. Okay, but this is not extremely common in my opinion, this phenomenon. Okay, words and word usage. What have we got? Okay, so verestash, this is a word we're seeing here. This is a bit of a tricky word, especially to Valentina says, would this be the only situation when you would inflect adjectives? Generally, yes, because if you have them modifying nouns, then they are morphologically inert. Then because you only always attach suffixes to the end of the noun phrase. And if you're using them in predicative clauses, like the houses are green, you don't put green in plural. This is then like a difference between Mari and Hungarian, because otherwise they behave fairly similar when it comes to like plural marking. But like in Hungarian, unless I'm completely mistaken, you would have a plural marker and predicative adjectives, but not in Mari then. Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically it. Okay, so verestash, a word which we have in this chapter. It's this is a very tricky word to translate into English. In Russian, there is something fairly similar to it, like popadatsa is used sort of compare in some contexts that are comparable. And in some contexts, like German geraten would work as a counterpart. But there are two basic functions that we need to know. The one is we have translated it here as to get, to receive, to catch, but actually the ordering of the arguments is the completely other way around. So if you have here like the sentence, the whole sentence we would translate as Ichan would catches a large fish. What it actually is to Ichan, a big fish, geraten or something like that. Like it comes to him or whatnot. So basically the fish gets stuck in Ichan's net in this case. And very often you will also find this in a figurative context. Like if you say, oh God, what kind of sticky situation have we gotten ourselves into? Like to get oneself into or so, then very often wäre statt would be used here. So this is the one function that we should know. The other one is when I have here to have to, coming back to modal constructions. So it is used in necessative constructions of a sort. Like we say, I have to sell the car. You could also, like just a little note aside, you can also mark the person who has to do something not with the dative, but also with a possessive suffix on the verb. Like my selling is necessary. Or chılan, or if you want to mark it with the possessive suffix. So what sets this necessative construction apart from the ones that we have already encountered with chılage and also with man is that these verestash ones in Russian you will often find them translated as like nie prischlost or something like that. And it's like it's hard to find a good like idiomatic expression in English, but it's like to fall, it fell to my lot or so. It became necessary to do something. You have to do something not because there is some kind of either internalized or externalized obligation to do something, but just because something went wrong and you had to do something which you otherwise would not have wanted to do. Like you missed the bus, so you have to wait for the bus. This is not it's not your moral obligation to wait for the bus. It's not like some internal obligation you feel. It's just, this is what happened. Now we have to wait. Like also with like the selling the car. So you don't have to sell the car because you were ordered to do so by the authorities or something like that. You just need the money. So this is something that now fell to your lot to do. And verestash is one of a handful of Mari verbs that are used in these like kind of very sort of soft necessative constructions, shall we say. We'll encounter a few over lessons to come. And it's good to recognize them all, but it's also good, it's good to remember these are not the standard way of saying I have to do this, I have to read an essay or so. Okay. So anybody interrupt me if you have any questions or any of the points, otherwise I'll just continue going through them. So gına yemu adalos could be a good translation too. Yeah.
He managed to catch a fish with the dative. Yeah.
Okay, gına only is another Turkic friend which we're meeting, and those of you that have studied Udmurt will also know it because it has also been loaned into Udmurt. It's of Tatar origin, which then also means, for example, that we don't have this in Hill Mari, because usually Tatar things you only have in Mero Mari, usually with some exceptions. So gına only, it's a particle with a very well-established scope. So it's always like if I say like ichan chıla yavarım nalesh, ichan buys all the groceries. Only apples were not in the stores. Olma gına kevetishte uke. The scope of gına is that it refers to whatever phrase is immediately before it. And you can never have gına at the beginning of a sentence. It obligatorily has to have a word reference phrase of some sort. And the orthography kind of gives the game away here because it starts with g, but we don't usually have g in a syllable onset in Mari. There has to be something before it to allow a g to even happen. And Mari gına does something that it also does in Tatar at least, and that is, okay, our phonetics people are not here, but maybe I can, if Reka is okay, I'll ask the Turkologist. If I had this phrase, ik yoltash gına, like ik yoltash gına, one friend only one friend. How would you pronounce this?
In Mari or in Tatar?
It does the same thing that happens in Tatar in Mari.
Okay. Ik yoltash gına.
Exactly.
Gına.
It's kına. It's with a K.
Okay.
You don't, in Tatar, you even show this in orthography. In Tatar, it becomes, the g becomes a k after obstruents. In Mari, you don't orthographically realize it, but after an obstruent like a sh, you don't pronounce it as a g, you pronounce it as a k. It becomes voiceless. So you have your alternation that goes over the purported word boundary, which then of course makes you question the whole validity of the word boundary to begin with. Okay. So pel and pele, two words for half that we have. This is the same distinction that we already met with the numerals. That pel is what you use if you have a noun following, like pel suke is half a loaf. But if I have the half without saying half of what it is, like kanda shagatat pele, 6 hours and a half, then I use the long form pele. So this distinction of short form, long form, I mean, we've had it with some of the adjectives that they especially denote colors. We've had it with the numerals, and we have it like with some other miscellaneous other quantifiers like pel, pele. We will also encounter with some interrogative forms and indefinite forms like minyar, how much, how many. We can have minyar olma, how many apples, whereas in the short form, when it is followed by a noun. But if I just ask how many, and I'm not saying how many of what, then you usually would just say minyare without having the apple specified. Okay, this here, the point that I have on uke here, this is not actually giving any new information, just repeating to make sure we know about all this. How uke means no, both as like the standard answer of a like a way to give a quick negative answer to a polar question. Are you coming? No, you can just say uke. And it is the existential negator. So this is a range, it's somewhat comparable with niet in Russian, which is also sort of a standard no answer, but it's also the existential negator. So if we have like te vengrela kutreda, do you speak Hungarian? And I just want to say no without any other information, I just say uke. But if I say like kevatishta olma uke, there are no apples in the store. Here we have uke again. And then by extension, we also see it in the habio constructions, like what you have, what you don't have. Like pertem uke, I don't have a house. Because in Mari are habio constructions, like to have constructions, they're basically existential clauses. Like my house exists, my house does not exist. Okay, another point is about shogash. So we have here, this is then debatable if this is, if you want to call this polysemy or if you want to call this these synonyms, but we have a verb shogash, to stand, and shogash, to cost, both second conjugation. And I find it very likely that it's actually polysemy that came to be, especially under Russian influence, because under Russian, unless I'm completely mistaken, the to cost verb in Russian is derived from the stem meaning to stand.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's quite funny because we have the same thing in Czech. Stát, which is like to cost or to stand in an upright position.
Yeah. Yeah, my guess is that this is a fairly old, just loan meaning in Mari, that like basically copying the Mari. Like as Kevin says, that you have a difference in stress, so they're not completely identical, but it is clearly from the same stem in Russian. And I don't know if this is like a newer development in Russian, that you have this separation of the stems. We'd need the insights from somebody who's better with Slavic studies here. Because it could be like that it's a fairly modern development that predates this influence that it had on Mari. Okay, so we can say Enger savuktener sugar, the fishing rod is standing next to the door, or Olma kolo tengem sugar, the apple costs 20 rubles, with an accusative here. Something that is a bit tricky, but we just have to get used to it, is that here we had the accusative. Like, and I say what something costs with a value in rubles or whatever currency we're using. Here we have the accusative, but when I ask what something costs, I say mosh shuga, which is actually illative. Into what does it cost? And then I say it costs like 20 rubles or whatnot. Okay, here we're having the usual. This is a continuous problem that anyone that writes textbooks for Russia has, is inflation. That the prices that you put in the text, you can be sure that a few years later they're not going to make any sense anymore. So we actually revised this in, like, I think 2011 or so, 2000 at some point, like 10 years ago, to make the prices look somewhat reasonable. But at this point, I think 1 euro is something like 100 rubles. So like one ruble is comparable to 1 euro cent. So having things cost 50 kopecks, like half of a euro cent, I don't think it happens very much. I mean, people who have spent more time in Russia recently can tell me, but otherwise. But in my last visits to Russia, I don't see kopecks in active use right now. Yeah. Which is a pity, because the Mari word for kopek is very cool. It's a relexicalized forms of the scroll. But yeah. Well, which is again a regional thing that back in the day, long time ago, scroll pelts were a form of currency in this region. So you'll often have words for various currency words derived from words for scroll. Like I believe in Tatar that the Tatar word for ruble is the scroll, or is it the kopek? One of the two is Tiesh, I think. I'd have to look it up which one it is. Okay. So much for standing and costing. Here, a quick revision. Somebody asked about this at some point, that we had chıla, everything and all, and then we also had çılан and çılаже. What is the difference between these three forms that we have? Well, chıla is like the basic unmarked form, everything. I'm telling you everything. I love all of you. Here the question might rise, why do we have here, why do we not have an accusative suffix here, but we do have here? I have no idea. This needs further research, but there is some variation here. Sometimes you will have chıla unmarked in the object position, and sometimes you'll have the accusative from çılан in the object position. Okay, but what I can say is that the çılан forms that we have, this is the instructive end that we have met many times at this point, that we had like at the converb ending and in the collective numerals and in the adverbial forms of adjectives. So the çılан forms, they are always adverbial instructive in some form, like me ala çılан tulana. All of us together. How are we coming tomorrow? All of us together are coming. Like çılан, everybody together, sort of adverbially, is going to the meeting. Oh, the demonstration in this case. And this çılаже form, this is just çıla with the possessive suffix, third person singular, and this is especially used like to say that something is in sum, in addition, at the end of the calculation. So like kok olmada kum olma çılаже minyardiyesh. 2 apples and 3 apples. In sum, if you add it all up, if you put it all together, what is that? Tuten çılаже kum pert ulo. She, he, they, if you put it all together, has 3 houses. Okay, and I believe this is the last grammar and word usage point before we get to the text, is about yodash, to ask. Here we have something possibly unexpected, but in line with how Mari usually behaves in the argument structure of this verb, and that is, if I'm asking yodash to ask for something, like I'm asking you for my book or whatnot, the way you mark it here is my yoltashem dech. I'm asking from my friend with dech, Polish help with accusative. I'm asking from my friend for help. The help is the object. I will ask the teacher for advice. I ask kangash, advice, with the accusative marker. I'm asking someone for advice. From the teacher. So here the accusative object is the thing that you are asking for. But if I am asking somebody to do something, like I'm asking you to read a book or whatnot, here we then have mi yolta shemim, accusative, mulanem poshash yodam. I'm asking my friend with accusative to ask me. I will ask the teacher in the accusative to explain. So in one case, we have the person that we're asking with the accusative, and in one person with the postposition ditch from. And the underlying thing here is that most varieties of Mari, there are some exceptions and you find counterexamples, but usually Mari is not a fan of double accusative markings. Mari does not like to have two things in the accusative. So you just have one accusative slot. And in this case, if you're asking somebody for something, the accusative slot is taken by the thing that you are asking for, the help, the advice, or whatnot. So there is no more accusative slot left for the person from whom you're asking it, so you have an appositional construction. Whereas here, if you are asking somebody to do something and you have an infinitive and you don't have an accusative object from there, the accusative slot is still free for the person of whom you're asking to do something. Yeah, and we will find, especially when we get to causative constructions, we're going to find similar things happening over and over again. Okay, that's it for grammar, words and word usages. Before we get to the text, does anybody have any open questions, anything that I should revise, repeat? What if you're asking your friend to eat an apple or something like that? Good question. Then yes, then it is now no problem to have two accusatives, because the rule is basically that you can't have like two accusative forms that are syntactically on one level. But if you have an accusative form and then some embedded clause, that embedded clause can have an accusative. So it would be like I ask my friend in the accusative to eat an apple, and the apple in the accusative. So that's no problem. Yeah, we actually, Johannes Hilvonen and I have been looking at this also with like causative constructions, like double accusative marking of like, can one find examples where it is like, I make my friend read a book, where you have both the book and the friend in the accusative. And very often, in like if we look for two accusatives, we end up finding the kind of structures like Kevin mentioned, where we have then one embedded accusative and one top level one, but you don't. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, or should we get to the text? Okay, about the text, we are again going to see the Mari propensity for planning in action, because rather than just write up a shopping list and give it to Ichan, Yelu in this chapter is just thinking of all the things that Ichan should do, like on the fly, is coming up with new tasks and new things to get on the supermarket, and very much it resembles interactions I have had in these cultural circles. Okay, let me get the audio.
Умшу тема. Кочкаш. Ичан кеваташкая.
Did everybody hear that? Great. So, okay, I think we can start at the beginning. Yeah, let's do it sentence for sentence, even so when the things go on forever, we'll just do one sentence, and I always try to stop the recording at the right place. So we can start with Valentina.
Эчан, кевытышке кай, эрлан шуко кочкыш кӱлеш. Эрла уна.
Yeah. Wait, is Valentina here? I'm not sure if Valentina's currently here. Okay, I can't hear you. Are you muted maybe?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, no.
Sorry.
No.
So she's saying, Ichan, go to the store. Much food is needed for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yep.
Эрла уна-влак толыт.
Kelvin?
Tomorrow guests are coming.
Yeah. Then Sandra gets the somewhat longer one.
Мый когыльым ыштынем да команмелнам кӱэштнем.
Yeah.
I will make kogel and common melna. I forgot what kyesht meant.
Kyesht is to bake.
Ah, okay. So
yeah.
I want to make kogel and I want to bake some common melna.
Yeah. So kogelio, that's just basically, that's like the more counterpart to like pierogi and various other like pastries. But we have it translated as pies, but yeah, don't conceive it like American style apple pie, this kind of thing. It's more like insert random Eastern European cuisine. Like I think it's fairly similar to also like Czech goulash or kolach, however exactly it is. In Viennese, it's golache. Common melna, this is an interesting one. It's a layered pancake. There's a recipe coming in a few chapters that I don't think is very convincing. I tried to bake something from it and didn't come out. Yeah, Luan has also tried it. I would try to find a better, a more convincing recipe for common melna at some point. But with common melna, this layered pancake, it's like it's a pancake that consists of 3 different layers of dough, and they all have to be baked evenly. And this makes it a very tricky thing to make. So this is the kind of thing, like if Mars want to boast about how awesome their grandmothers are, they'll boast about how awesome their common melna is, because that's where you really can show your skill when it comes to baking. Like kotlama, I'd have to look it up. But yeah, they are a bit flaky usually, and they are sort of like this size. There are 2 restaurants in Yoshkaula now that offer fairly good common melna, and also all the other things that we're talking about in the textbook here. Like if we ever manage to, if there ever is a word again in which we can do an expedition to Mariel, which I very much hope there will be, we can. You can go to restaurants and get a try there, and then you'll have Maurice telling you, yeah, but my grandmother makes much better common melnas. And so yeah, that's very nice, but I can't just drop in on your grandmother and ask her to bake me a common melna now, can I? Well, probably I could, but my personality type prohibits me from doing this. Yeah, so we're going to briefly touch upon this in a later chapter in the common melna, as sort of like the boss battle of Mari cuisine, like the most difficult thing to get really right. It also has a distinction in Mari wedding customs, that if a young woman wants to prove herself to be good marriage material, worthy of being a wife, the way she can really prove it is by baking a kick-ass common melna. Because if you can make a good common melna, then you are ready for anything that a household can throw at you. But of course, this is not the only function of the common melna. This is like just a side thing of it. They are like a core element of Mari cuisine, and I'm sure we saw some also being sacrificed in the Grove last week. What Valentina is saying in the chat, that there's a Russian, a British journal, a TV show of a British journalist going to the Russian republics and trying to come in. I have not seen this. Yeah. So about recipes in general, there are actually some Russian language Mari cookbooks, and I think there is one copy somewhere in Vienna try to get a copy of it. And yeah. Okay, I think I have. Oh, online, cool. Kevin put a Hungarian one on Discord. Great. Okay, but enough philosophizing about common melna. Let's continue with the text, and it was Luan's turn. Sorry, I forgot to play.
Mumnala Shavai.
What do I have to buy, Mom?
Yeah, and then Reka.
Kindamnal.
Take some bread.
Yeah.
Buy some bread.
Yeah. Then Sonia.
Shema Malyosham.
Shema Malyosham, that was the one we had in grammar, like brown one or white one.
Yeah.
Ошым.
Ик сукыр шемым, да пел сукыр ошым.
Then Valentina.
So 1 loaf of dark bread and half a loaf of white bread.
Ошым.
Эше мом?
Kevin.
Ishe, Mom. What else?
Yeah. And then Sandra gets a longer one again.
Холодильникыш ончал, муно уло мо?
Yeah.
I was muted. Look inside the fridge. Are there any eggs?
Yeah.
Уке гын колым уным нал.
Then Luan.
If there are none, then buy 20 eggs.
А эше мом налман?
Reka.
And what test should I take?
А эше мом налман?
Эше 2 кило шыдаҥ ложашым, 200 грамм ӱйым, 2 кило шылым, 2 литр шӧрым, ужар шоганым, олмам.
Олмажым?
Okay, this is where I would blow a fuse and ask, give me a list, woman. But Sonia.
I'll just start translating straight away. Well, 2 kilos, and I don't know what is shudang. That's the wheat. Your wheat flour. So 30 grams butter, 2 kilos. 2 kilos meat. And she doesn't specify what kind of meat.
No.
Okay. 2 liters. I don't know what should. It's milk. 2 liters milk and green. Green onions.
Yeah.
And apples.
Yeah. And as Sandra points out, that's a lot to carry. I'm not sure this bag is going to cut it, but yeah.
I just wonder how a 14-year-old boy can manage this, but obviously can.
Yeah. Okay. Then Valentina gets a more pleasant one.
Мыняр килом налаш?
Кумытым.
Maybe these 2 ones.
So how many kilos of apples should I buy? I also like the fact that he's not asking how many apples, but how many kilos. It's funny.
Yeah. And then Kumatam.
3.
Yeah. Okay, and then Kelvin, maybe 2 sentences.
Ти да чыла?
Очень и чыла.
Tita chilla, is that everything? Очень chilla. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I guess that's everything, sort of. Thanks, Mom. Okay.
Курак сумкам нал, Эчан.
Sandra?
Yeah, take a bigger package.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Яравай.
I'll do this one. Yaravai is like good, Mom. So this yara, it's a verbal form. It's like it is suitable. This is a Wanderwort in the Volga-Kama region that you have it. Udmurt has it, Tatar has it, and whatnot. And so it's like you'll find it usually like marked as an adverb or something like that. But it's like there is the infinite. It's yarash. And in yara is 3rd person singular. It is suitable. It goes or whatnot. In some German varieties, this works with like passen, passt. past mama or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Then now we come to the narrative bit. And the first one will go to Luan.
Эчан сумкам налеш да кевытыш кая.
Yeah.
Echan takes the bag and goes to the store.
Yeah. Then Reka.
Кевыт кандаш шагатлан почылтеш.
The shop opens at 8 o'clock.
Yep. So this ult here, it's like, there's a quick note that we have put chash as a verb, is a transitive verb to open something, and počiltash is like to be open, it's open intransitive. And this ult, it's a variant of alt, which we had, which is a valency reducing suffix that always, it has various different functions. It can be passive, like to be seen. It can be reflexive, like to wash oneself. It can be sort of medial something. It's just something intransitivizing with various different functions. And it can also be used in impersonal constructions. We'll meet it again and again, but I just wanted to here point it out. Then yeah.
Sorry, I'm repeating myself, but isn't this also a Tatar thing or something? Like I know it from a lot of Turkic languages. Or an.
It corresponds fairly closely like to some Tatar an derivations, but the alt itself, I think like the building blocks, I don't think they are Turkic, but if somebody knows of some competing theory, I would be happy to see it.
No, in some Turkic languages, you have an alternation from N, L, and so on, depending on the phonotactics of the words. So that's why.
Okay, I have not seen this postulated anywhere, but that doesn't have to mean anything. So, okay, then Sonia's up next.
Эчан ондакрак толеш, да тудлан икмыняр минутым вучашыже верештеш.
Yeah.
Эчан ондакрак толеш, да тудлан икмыняр минутым вучашыже верештеш. Echan arrives a few minutes earlier, and he gets to wait, or he has to wait, or he arrives earlier, and he has to wait a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering about the plot line, how this happened. The mother randomly says, "Hey, Echan, go to the market and get these things," and he goes there, and the market isn't even open yet. This conversation happened at 6 o'clock in the morning, but okay, I probably shouldn't be looking for plot holes in my own textbook. Okay, next is Valentina. Then.
Эчан вуча, мом налаш шонен шога.
So Echan is waiting. I'm not sure about the shonen shoga. So is he thinking about what to buy?
Yeah, this is now a case where it's tricky, and I can't tell you for sure which one it is. That it could be that shonen shoga is literally he is standing there thinking about what he should buy, or that shoga could be in a spectral, in this an Aktionsart marking convert construction, where it is just a durative marker that he spends a lot of time thinking about it. And it could be both. It could have aspects of both. It could be what Klaus Schönig lovingly called the Durchschlagen der Vollverbedeutung, that you have, that it is sort of it is indicating a lengthy process, but that the standing position is still implied too somehow. This is actually, by the way, you have this in Scandinavian languages to some extent, not with a converb or so, but that you will, there's often like textbooks for Scandinavian languages will tell you that if you say I am sitting and reading, that this could also just mean that you are reading for a long time while sitting, yes, but that's sort of like not really what you are mostly indicating by saying the sitting part. Okay, then next up is Kelvin.
Ашке кевытым почет.
Yeah.
Finally, the store, they open the store.
Yeah, or soon they open the store. Yeah. So here I want to again note here. This is like a Russian type construction we have. It's third person plural without an avert subject, which in Russian this is used for impersonal clauses. Like if you know some very fundamental Russian, like how you say my name is in Russian, it's like меня зовут blah blah blah. They call me blah blah blah. Who's they? That's not specified because it's impersonal. And this works the same in Mari, that if you have third person plural without an avert subject, usually this implies an impersonal reading. So the store is opened by participants who are not material to the narrative, so it's not mentioned. Yeah. And here we see now počal, the transitive counterpart to počal. Okay, next up is Sandra. One moment.
Эчан чыла йырварым налеш. Олма гына кевытыште уке.
Another one we had in the grammar part.
Yeah.
Echan gets everything, all the groceries.
Yeah.
Except for the yeah. There are only no apples at the store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then Luan is up next.
Эчан пазарыш кая.
Echan goes to the bazaar.
Then Rika.
Тушто тӱрлӧ олмам ужалат.
There they sell different sorts of apples.
Yep. Yeah. And here again, another third person plural, impersonal construction. Then Sonia up next.
Шер олмаже шерге. Акше 2 килолан 10 теҥге. Шопыжо шулдырак. 10 теҥгем шога.
Шере олмаже шерге, акше 2 килолан 10 теҥге. Шопыжо шулдырак 10 теҥгем шога. I just wonder what sherge is. Like the sweet apples are expensive.
Yep.
Yeah. And the price or their price is 30 rubles per kilogram. The sour ones are cheaper, 20 rubles per kilogram. Or they cost 20 rubles.
Yeah.
Kilo. Yeah.
Yeah. And here we see a nice example of possessive suffix third person singular used to mark something as a subset of some kind of salient category. That we already were talking about all the apples that we are, and now we're talking about the sweet ones and the sour ones as sort of a subset of the totality of apples that we were looking at. And so then we have shere, olmage, and shopejo, both marked then with possessive suffix third person singular. Yeah, then Valentina is up next.
Эчан 2 кило шерым да 2 кило шопо олмам висаш йодеш.
So Echan decides to buy 2 kilos of sweet apples and 1 kilo of sour apples.
Yeah, or he asks for it, but yeah. Okay, and then Kelvin, the last regular sentence.
Чылажлан 15 теҥге оксам тӱла да мӧҥгышкыжӧ кая.
Чылажлан 15 теҥге оксам тӱла да мӧҥгышкыжӧ кая. So all in all, for everything, he pays 80 rubles and goes home.
Yep. Yeah, this is probably financially no longer convincing that you get all these apples for 80 euro cents. But yeah. Okay, and Sandra, do you still want to do the caption of the picture? We don't have this on the recording. What the micro dialogue?
I can do it, yeah. Monanet echan, kok liter shurim. What would you like, echan? 2 liters of milk.
Yep. Great, and here we actually we kind of see that like nalash in the with the desiderative, like what do you want? Like what if you have like a noun of what you want? Nalash is a good guess here. Okay. So exercises. Before we go to the Google Docs, I wanted to do. I think this was actually pretty nice and good that we did the listening comprehension last week. And I want to do it this week too. No pressure if you are struggling with it, but let me see. So we'll start, let's start with Valentina. You'll hear a sentence and I just want you to repeat it and translate it if you can. And if you didn't hear something, I can repeat it or, yeah. So, one moment. Yep.
So today we're having guests, or guests are coming to us.
To us?
To me.
Yeah. Okay. Then Kelvin. Sorry about the break.
Ми кеватышкаем.
I am going to the store.
Yep. Then Sandra.
Мыланем шуко йӧрвар кӱлеш.
I didn't understand all of it, so can you repeat it, please?
Мыланем шуко йӧрвар кӱлеш.
I'm not understanding the second to last word. So milanem shuko whatever kulesh. I need a lot of.
Yeah, Jörvar, which is like groceries, or like in German you could translate it as Lebensmittel or so.
Okay, thanks.
And then Luan is next.
Мый киндым муным шылым налнем.
My kindem monem shulum nalem. I buy bread, eggs, and meat.
I buy, or
what was it nalem or nalnem?
Nalnem.
Nalnem. Oh, I want to buy it.
Exactly. Very good. Then Reika next.
Пазарышкат кайыман.
So, пазарышкат кайыман? I'm thinking about pazarishk and the ending. That's what I'm not really grasping right now. Like, we should go to the market or something like that.
Like also to the market, one must go.
Okay.
So it's pazar, market. Ishke is the illative, to the market, and at is clitic also to the market.
Okay.
One must go. Then Sonia.
Тушто пареҥгым олмам налам.
Sonia?
Sorry, I didn't get the ending. Could you please repeat it? Thank you.
Sure.
Шкат кайыман.
Oh, sorry, that's the last one.
Тушто пареҥгым олмам налам.
Тушто пареҥгым олмам налам. I don't understand the beginning, and then the second part is like I get the apples.
So it's tushto, parengum.
Okay, there, so it's probably in the bazaar place, and I don't know what parengum is.
Parenge is potato.
Okay. So there you can buy potatoes and apples.
Yeah, or there I will buy potatoes and apples.
Yeah.
Then Valentina again.
Вара мӧҥгышкӧ каем.
Yeah.
Kayem is the second part, and the first part I didn't get. Can you play again?
Yeah.
Вара мӧҥгышкӧ каем.
I don't know. So
Okay.
I'm going to go, or I'm going somewhere.
It's vara möngischke kayem.
Okay, so then I'm going home.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mangushka.
And then Kevin, I think there's one more. Let's see.
Мӧҥгыштӧ эше пеш шуко паша уло.
Müngește șteș șuca pașaulo.
At home, there is a lot of work to do.
The second word was möngischke esche.
Oh, at home, there's still a lot of work to do.
Exactly. So this esche, it's borrowed from Russian, but somewhat modified in Russian. It's isho, like still, and it's spelled with the other e and the sha and the such, but more it's simplified to esche. Okay, great. So let's progress to let's do a few of the written exercises. One moment. Okay. So maybe we can start with Sandra. And so we have the sentence, me jalishte ilanem, me jalishte inem ile, or these two sentences. And what do they mean respectively?
I would like to live in the village. I would not like to live in the village.
Yep. And what would it be now in the second person?
De jalishte ilinet and de jalishte inet ile.
Okay, third person, Luan.
Wait. So sorry, I was just. Where are we?
No worries.
Okay.
So how would you say in the third person singular, she, he, they wants to live in the village or the countryside or not?
Dudu jalishte ilineshe.
And negate it?
Dudu jalishte inesh ile.
Very good. Then Reka, first plural.
So, jalishte elinena.
Ilanena, yeah.
Ilanena, I can't do these words, I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then jalishte inena ile.
Very good. Then Sonia, second plural.
De jalishte ilaneda, de jalishte ineda ile.
Ineda ile and ilaneda. Very good. And then Valentina, still third plural.
So nuno jalishte ilinesht. Nuno jalishte inesht ile.
Very good. Sorry, I'm running out of floor here. I think I'll skip the second one because it's basically the same thing over again, and we can jump to exercise 2, where we have indicative clauses and we want to turn them into desiderative clauses. So rather than saying what somebody does, you saying what somebody wants to do. And let's start with Kelvin.
Tu do redakcije šte pašam šta. So, tu do redakcije šte pašam ishneže.
Ishneže, yes. And maybe also a translation, just in case.
Oh, he or she or they wants to work in the editorial office.
Yeah. Okay, Sandra.
Jučavlak Rushanian Teatrisch Ogit Kai. The kids don't want to go to the don't go to the theater on Sundays, and Jučavlak Rushanian Teatrisch Inestkai.
Very good, perfect.
Yeah.
So then negation, it's extra easy. You just have to replace the negation verb with the appropriate form. So Luan, next.
The yalishte letmo and the desiderative is the yalishte ilinetmo, and the translation, do you want to live on the countryside?
Yep. Then Rika.
Nuno keçiverde çvara ilk şagat kanaltat. Nuno keçiverde çvara ilk şagat kanal. Kanal finished.
Very good. So you were.
Okay, they. Okay, so should I translate or?
Yeah. Maybe you translate then I'll make it.
Okay, so they are resting an hour long after noon.
Yeah, and you were probably uncertain if you want to have a linking vowel or not, if it is like kanal tilnisht or kanal nisht. Yeah, so you have to figure out the conjugation class, and this was right, that if it's second conjugation, you want an before the ne. Yeah, I call it a linking vowel. Technically, it's not that because it's part of the stem, but yeah. So Sonia.
Ти маленька стіне школи штукодат. What time? Or no, sorry. Why do you stay at school in the evening? Yeah. Ти маленька стіне школи, що Net.
Okay, so it is here. It is T. T kodat. You stay. What conjugation class is that?
Oh, sorry, it's the first one.
Exactly.
Codenet.
Codenet.
Sorry.
Yeah, and this is one case where it's actually it changes the meaning, because there is also second conjugation kodo, which also has infinitive kodash, to leave something somewhere, and there it would be kodenet. But in the first conjugation, it's codenet because the verbal stem is just here, the kod. Okay, Valentina.
To the mogai operim kolishtes. So. Which opera does he, she like?
Like or?
Sorry, I forgot.
Listen to.
Listen to, okay. And the desiderative form kolishtenege.
Okay, again, the thing, if you have kolishtes, what conjugation class is this?
The second one?
No.
Oh.
As in the second conjugation, you have a in the first or second person, like ishtem, ishtet.
Right,
and the third person is ishta.
Ishta. So the first one. So kodat is kolisht. So kolisht is the conjugative form, isn't it?
Yes. And also the verbal stem?
Yes. Kolisht neje.
Exactly. Okay, then Kelvin.
Anush momkochkats becomes Anush momkochnet. Anush, what do you want to eat?
Yep. Then Sandra.
Meshim shagatlan on Kenyel becomes Meshim shagatlan inem Kenyel. I do not want to get up at 7 o'clock.
Relatable. Luan.
Me Platonovin Chevengo Luman Romanchim Ludam, and in the desiderative it's me Platonovin Chevengo Luman Romanchim Ludnem. I want to read Platonov's novel named Chevengo.
Yeah, Rika.
Jochavla kasmarte mundsheltat. Jochavla kasmarte mundsheltenest. So the kids are so sliding. Kasmarte, I forgot what it was.
Till evening.
Until the evening, and they want to slide until the evening then.
Yeah. So slide is what it means in the basic meaning, but then we have the phrase "Ječe dene mundsheltash" to slide with skis, and "Is der dene mundsheltash" to slide with sleds. And I'm guessing that it means one of the two, that they want to either ski or sled till evening. Okay, I think I'm going to skip over number 3, but this is some more practice for desiderative if any of you want the revision, and I'm also going to skip over 4 and 5 and do 6. So here we have color words and other adjectives and the such that we need to insert, and we want to see if we get their grammatical marking right. And we'll start with the first one, Sonia.
Sorry, Jeremy, could you make it a bit bigger, please?
Sorry. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's slightly too much.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, thank you. May beledishim yaratem may yarate may beledishim oshim yaratem may oshim yarate. I love white flowers. I don't like white ones.
Yep. Then Valentina.
Tell him. Oh, I see. So Dietmaros is coming, but I forgot the adjective.
It's juste.
Juste. Then it should be a nominative. Tell him. Juste kugizat tolesh. So Santa or Dietmaros is coming. Juchavlaklan shuko. Polekim konda. So is giving many or bringing many presents to kids.
Yeah. So in winter, the cold uncle comes and gives the children many presents. Okay, then Kelvin.
Kengejem pushingevlak ujargem ulet?
I would just say ujarge, the adjective. That we have something like ujarge and shogat, or like greenly or so. If somebody has the textbook by the exercise key by hand, it could be that it's something else. But I don't have it at hand right now. I'll check it afterwards. But I would go with this. Okay, Sandra.
Ja, kugumeran turerashte ila. There's a okay. There's a big hare lives in the forest.
Yeah. Then Luan.
Meyen shusharem easy. My sister is little.
Yeah. My little sister is little. Yesterday encountered that there's a Hilmar word that I didn't know, which is like the youngest of my elder brothers. That if I have a whole bunch of elder brothers, the youngest of those that is still older than me, there's an own word for that. Pretty cool. But Reka.
Okay. Yoshkar flagvlak uramishte koit. Red flags are in the street or on the street.
Yeah, like can be seen or whatnot. Sonja?
Me žara I'll just read the sentence till sorry, I don't know what tuver means, and I can't see the word at the bottom. Sorry.
Can you see it now?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Me żarem tuverem nalam ate shemen.
Can you say it again? The first part?
Me żarem tuverem. No, sorry, it's no ending. Me żar tuverem nalam ate shemen.
Yeah. This is an instinct that one must kick if one comes from Finnic languages, that one wants to inflect everything in the noun phrase. Okay, then Valentina?
Kugu jochavlak is there than a munchaltat. So big or big children ski. Is there? I can't remember.
Okay.
They used. Is it the sludge?
The sludge. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they go on the sludge.
Yeah. So is there? It's a compound that is not fully transparent anymore. It goes back to easy ter, and ter is like a sleigh, like a horse sleigh drawn by a sleigh drawn by horses. And so a bobsled or a sledge or whatnot, it's like that, just smaller. So easy ter, and with time is there.
Jeremy, I checked the solution or the results or the key for this exercise, and in number 4, if that was the question, there is kugu.
Kugu. No, but number 3, does it say ujarge or ujargen?
I think there was ujarge. Just a second, I will get there again.
I'm pretty sure it was my mistake was failing to realize that the on kingejem was a temporal accusative.
Ujarge.
Ujarge. Okay, yeah. But because this is something that also, especially if you're coming from English, you can be a bit thrown off. Like when do we use adverbial forms in English? And because we don't with verbs of perception or whatnot, that you would say like, I don't know, this picture looks nice, but you wouldn't say this picture looks nicely, which is inconsistent, of course, with how we use adverbial forms in so many things, like he is talking slowly or whatnot. And like in many cases like that, Mari would actually use then an adverbial form with the instructive N, that something looks so-and-so, you'd have an instructive N and it would be adverbial. Like also, especially like with color terms, like we rarely use adverbial forms of color terms in English, like bluely or when will you say bluely or so, or redly. But like with to be, it is still it does not take an instructive marking there. Okay. This is actually an exercise of something from a previous chapter, but I think it's a good thing to practice. So let's do this, even if it's a bit out of left field. So what we have here is that we have like with an imperative, a statement, and we want to turn this into a conditional clause. So it's like ichan lojashim na, ichan buy flour, koman melnam kyushdam, I will bake koman melna. And of that we make ichan lojashim na latkin, ichan if you buy flour, koman melnam kyushdam, I will make a koman melna. So I think it was Kelvin's turn for the first one. Yeah.
Sergei biletam na kinoshkayena becomes Sergei biletam na latkin kinoshkayena. Sergei, if you buy a ticket, we will go to the movie theater.
Yep. Sandra.
Shukulotsa shukopaleda becomes shuko. Lurida?
Yeah.
Lurida again, shuko. Yeah, pareda. If you read a lot, you learn a lot.
Yeah, you know a lot then.
I know.
Yeah. Then Luan.
Erdene sayatkim ishtisa tasa liada becomes erdene sayatkim ishtida tasa liada.
The gun was missing.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
If you do what was this physical exercises in the morning, you will like stay healthy or become healthy, or
yeah. Be, become, stay, something on that spectrum. Okay, Reka. Okay, we'll skip over Reka for now. Sonja.
Joče vlak škole što sajem tu nem za vara univerzitet štat tu nemaš da kuštulgo liješ. Well, if kids learn well at school, and after that and I wonder what's tu nemaš da.
Okay, it's tu nemaš is to study, and da is possessive suffix. That we haven't discussed this in too much detail, but you can attach possessive suffixes to infinitive. So it's like you're studying.
Okay, so then you will do well at university.
Yeah, or you're studying will be easy is what it literally says.
Okay, okay. Joče vlak škole što sajem tu nem za gun vara univerziteta štat tu nemaš da kuštolgo liješ.
Almost. So the thing tu nemza, this is the imperative. So it's actually children.
You, so tu nem da.
Tu nemda.
Tu nemda.
I'll put it in writing just in case. Yeah, and let's say Valentina can do the last one.
Anush, tide emem iu vaške paremat. So Anush, drink this medicine or take this medicine, and you will feel better soon. So I'm a bit confused by the vocal stem. So Anush tide emim iuesh gin vaške paremat.
That would be third person, but she.
You add, yeah. You add.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So if you drink it, you will soon
feel better.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think we can skip over these two. And okay. So here we just want to just quickly practice the yodаш constructions, starting with Kelvin. So it's like here we have the yodаш, a lot of books to read, and we want the yodаш construction. I'm not sure how syntactically sound it always is, but like it fell to my lot to read a lot of books. But it should be now in the second person singular, like you have to. Can you form a sentence like that?
All right. Tlanet shuka knigam ludash verestesh.
Yep. Then Sandra. Third person singular.
Okay. Tudlan zarjatkem ishtash verestesh.
Yeah, I guess I could imagine some context where you just kind of get stuck in a place where everybody's doing calisthenics and it just sort of happens that you have to do them. Then Luan?
Milana kogeljum kuestash verestesh.
Yeah, so we have to make a kogelio. Are you back, Eka?
Okay, arbuz nalash tırlanda arbuzim nalash verestesh.
Yeah. All right, so you have to get a watermelon and then Sonia, the last one.
Shido denge and delash nominal. Shido denge delash verestesh.
Yeah, with accusative. Shüde tengem chylage verestesh. Okay. Okay. I think. As a last exercise, just a little revision of the numbers. Let's do this one, starting with Valentina. I think we know all of the vocabulary at this point, so I don't think we have to do English translations, but ask in the chat if some word is not clear, and then I can give an answer. Valentina, ik kilo shil mom sugar.
So how much is a kilo of meat? Kok shudo vitle tenge.
Yeah, but maybe with the verb, it costs so and so much.
Shoga.
Tengem
tengem shoga.
With an accusative. Okay. Kelvin, ik suker shem kinde moshoga.
Ik suker shem kinde luat vit tengem shoga.
This would have been correct in Hilmari. It's not luat vich, but
Latvit.
Latvich, exactly. I mean, historically, that is what it is, luat vich. And in Hilmar, you still have it like that, but in Metamar, it's been a bit reduced to Latvich. Sandra, ik liter shör moshoga.
Ik liter shör kolo visit tengam shoga.
That was the correct long form, kolo visit, but since we have a tenge, since we have a noun following,
kolo vit tengam shoga.
Exactly. Right. Luan, lu mono moshoga.
Lu mono kumlo kandash tengem shoga.
Reka, ik kilo ujal shogan moshoga.
1 kilo ujar kumlokut tengem sugar.
Ik kilo ujar sugar. Sonja, ik kilo pomidor mos sugar.
Ik kilo pomidor shimlo nela dingem telem e kolo shim dingem kangajim sugar.
Yeah, so I'd say telem, shimle nil. Make sure to remember to always use short form if you have a noun afterwards. Shimle nil tengem sugar, kingejim kolo shim tengem sugar. Then Valentina, the last one, ik kugu arbus mos sugar.
Kudlo indesh tengem sugar.
Very nice. Okay, so I think that's it for now with the exercises. The ones that I haven't done, the ones translated into Mari and the such, I think it makes more sense that if you want to do those, to do them on your own time without me watching over you. And as per usual, you can send me exercises either by email or over Discord or whatever, and I can have a look at them if you want to do additional things. And I'm going to stop the recording now.